culture involved in this space. Perfect, perfect. So I have with me here my three panelists, Ridhima Kahn, who's the VP of Business Development at DapperLabs. I have Terrence Pei, who's the co-founder of NiftyKit, and I have Rikin Mantri, who's the co-founder and co-CEO of Curio NFT. So before we jump in, I'm going to let each one kind of go in and introduce themselves and tell you a bit more about what they do at their respective companies and how they first got into blockchain. Starting with Ridhima.
Great, thanks. Yeah, so VP of Business Development at DapperLabs. I focus primarily on building partnerships with folks like the NFL and other companies in the space. We have a blockchain called Flow. I spend a lot of time working with creators and social platforms. And DapperLabs is like an entertainment blockchain company. So we have a few different segments. We have Dapper Studios, which is where we've built some of the world's most successful NFT projects like NBA Top Shot, UFC Strike, NFL All Day. We have a blockchain called Flow, which is focused primarily on serving to build consumer applications. We have a venture arm called Baller VC, and then we have the Dapper Wallet, which really powers a lot of the payments that we have on our platform. Perfect. And we recently also acquired Bread, which is now called Dapper Collectives, and that services as it was a way for brands and creators to build DAOs on our blockchain.
Ridhima is also very modest in the sense that she came to ComplexCon this year and was probably one of the most famous celebrities there, walking from booth to booth. Everyone wanted to hear what they were doing, so very modest and very awesome what they're doing at DapperLabs. Terrence.
Hey everyone, my name is Terrence and I'm the co-founder of NiftyKit. I have a background in software engineering, worked in Silicon Valley for many years. I worked at Tesla for Model 3 launch and also worked at Netflix for studio innovations. Also, at NiftyKit, we're an NFT smart contract platform. So you can basically create your NFT project with us, and you'll be able to get started without having any development help.
And Rikin.
I'm Rikin Mantri. I'm co-founder and co-CEO of Curio NFT. Curio NFT is working with the largest media entertainment brands, connecting fans. We're a fan-first platform. We formed the company in August of 2020. We launched actually a year ago yesterday with Fremantle Productions on American Gods. And we just signed a big deal with Universal Music Group last week, so we're really excited about that across all their labels. But my background is a mix of content and technology. Been playing in entertainment and across a talent agency at Disney, as well as in management consulting. Was computer science and film in undergrad. And so a proud Anderson grad, graduated in 2013.
Awesome. So I think, to start us off, how did each one of you guys get into blockchain? How is that where you arrived at? I know each one, have very storied careers prior to getting to blockchain, and how is it that you arrived with this new technology?
Yeah, so I initially got into blockchain, or got very interested in blockchain back in 2018. I was a partner at Andreessen Horowitz, which is a venture capital firm that was an investor in DapperLabs, and actually we were down the street at Good Music. We used to take our portfolio companies on these tours to help them go to market. And so we were at Good Music, Kanye's label, and we had taken 3 companies there, and one of them was DapperLabs. And I remember the guys at Good Music were like, so why do you guys put cats on the blockchain? I mean, how did you decide to do that? And I thought it was a really good question at the time because I just joined Andreessen, and I was curious about this deep technology investment company investing in cats on the blockchain. And what I realized was the answer to this question is really what got me in this deep, deep hole, which is that they realized at DapperLabs that the technology of blockchain was really, really strong. But they also appreciated the fact that without getting that technology into the hands of consumers in a way that they could understand, it was way less valuable. So they thought about what the most globally recognizable images were, and it turns out that cats are something that you can understand no matter which country you're from, no matter what language you speak. And so putting cats on the blockchain with really simple things like being able to breed them and showing the benefits of ownership, being able to own the cats and create businesses out of that, and things like what we call the kittyverse, were things that people could comprehend. So I started supporting Dapper in their growth and covered sports media and entertainment at Andreessen. And so I got an opportunity to help them through the NBA Top Shot deal, getting the NBA comfortable with blockchain. And then eventually, I worked really closely with them and sent them a few too many deals and ended up joining.
That's awesome. Isn't it interesting how no matter Web 2, Web 3, all road back to kitties? I think just no matter where you are, it's just cat memes and cat NFTs.
People love cats.
Terrence, how about you?
Yeah, so I got into the crypto space back in 2016 when I first learned about like Bitcoin. I thought it was like the most amazing thing ever, primarily because it's like a decentralized technology and it's not controlled by anyone besides like the miners. But yeah, and then when I learned about Ethereum, that you can actually write code and deploy it, and anybody can interact with it in a decentralized way, that just blew my mind. You can also like send money to it. You can also like, make money from it, and it just sounds too good to be true. So yeah, like just finding out that NFT, is now taking off and getting a lot of like attention. It's almost like a dream come true for me. So it's really great.
It's awesome.
That's great. Yeah, so my story is actually not too dissimilar than both of yours. Axiom Zen, which became Dapper at ETH Waterloo, was when I first heard about NFTs. And it was amazing because I was actually literally at night pacing because I was like, digital assets and value and ownership. The game has changed. Little did I know that no one else kind of realized that. I took a project out that actually was tokenizing music rights in January of 2018, and then crypto winter hit and kind of thwarted my plans, so to speak. But this notion of actually taking IP, I come from the IP entertainment world, and having that on chain and having to redefine ownership, value, and access is super what we at Curio are really trying to build. And so I still think we're at the first inning of this, and I think it's a long game.
Yeah.
And I think that it's really encouraging. Actually, we launched Curio because we saw signals with Dapper and NBA Top Shot. We talked to one of the designers there, Santi, who was like one of the early guys, and we saw Nifty Gateway in terms of art. And coming from the entertainment world again, it was like, oh, the signals are there. We didn't think that we launched in February of 23rd last year, and it was just madness. Right after we launched, we didn't expect any of this. You know, in fact, when we were pitching Curio to entertainment brands, I worked at Disney, and people at Disney were like, WTF, what is that? And I was like, there's no way that non-fungible token was going to be a word that people recognized. So we were thinking about it along the lines of a digital collectible or a digital asset. And super exciting that the year accelerated in a massive way. Yeah. And so here we are,
I need my digital fast pass back. I need to figure out some way to get an NFT through Disney, and I can cut those lines again.
Disney's going to figure it out.
Yeah. It's exciting to see how now they're finally jumping in with both feet and having one of the most expansive libraries when it comes to IP. I mean, just the sky's the limit in what they're going to be able to do. So I think my next question is going to be, and I'll start with Rikin and we'll come down the next way, is
Sure.
Why is the technology, both crypto, blockchain, NFTs, why is it so important? And why is it so important for the students of Anderson to really understand it?
Yeah. Am I on? Can you guys hear me? Yeah. Oh, great. It's interesting because I graduated undergrad in 2002. That was really Web 1. And understanding, we'd walk in and be like, why do you need a website? And bookstores would be like, there's no, people are walking, coming in into the store. In Web 2, I remember I was at William Morris Endeavor at the time, and we were talking to our clients about how important that social channel is, and how it's a new way to actually communicate with fans. And then you also had cloud computing and this notion of taking out of like these centralized units and putting it in the cloud. Web3 and NFTs are that gateway to Web3. So Web3 is this next evolution of the internet. So whether you whether you believe NFTs are a crock of nonsense or not, you can't really stop innovation in terms of kind of where that technology leads. The beauty of actually decentralized worlds is that it actually changes consumer behavior, and the ability for brands to actually directly have these one-to-one connections that previously you had to go on a platform like an Instagram or Facebook or TikTok, and now you have these one-to-one connections that are super valuable. And so I think brands have to nurture those, and it's still very early on, but they're exploring it. And I think like as more NFTs get released, I don't think NFT is going to be this one thing that's like it's defined in one ways. It's just like anything digital. Like we don't think about the MP3 anymore or streaming content. You just think about getting it, right? You don't think about the underlying technology. And I think that's where we are in like a 2006, 2007 corridor.
Totally. And it's the underlying technology, I think, that is so exciting about it. I mean, whether it's a PFP or something that has true utility, those things are really just kind of testing the boundaries of what's possible. And I think what we're going to see is it's truly the underlying technology that makes it so exciting. Terrence, how about you?
Yeah, and I think as Rikin said, like decentralization, in my opinion, is one of the key benefits to NFTs. Is nobody really has like control over the data, so it's more about transparency and having to be able to trust an algorithm that makes it that data is secure and not tampered with. And I think just having that trust on a digital asset, like not having to rely on a company to basically manage that, gives a lot of power and flexibility to the users. So, if we were to transfer an asset, in a decentralized way and in a transparent way, blockchain enables us to do that. And I think, as NFTs are growing and, becoming more popular, I feel like we're going to appreciate a lot more of that transparency and trust as we move forward.
Yeah. I think it's also so fascinating, too, that this is happening in parallel to a cookieless future. As third-party cookies are going away and more brands are having to really understand their audience and the data behind their audience, you're now being presented with such a perfect opportunity to have that one-to-one relationship or one-to-many relationship where you don't have to rely on some of those, third-party cookies that, as we know, are all going to be going away in the not-too-distant future. Ridhima.
Yeah, I think that blockchain technology is really going to hit every single sector that we know, if we're lucky and intentional. I think that, to piggyback off of what you're describing around decentralization and trust, as well as the value for creators to actually receive benefits from what they're creating, not just, when it comes to art, but not just on the primary sale, but every sale thereafter and getting what they deserve. Van Gogh passed away broke, which might not have happened had blockchain technology existed. So I think from a creator standpoint, from an overall industry standpoint, there's a lot of applications that we haven't even seen the benefits of right now. When you think about real estate in developing countries and the benefits that it could have, I think NFTs drive a lot of value there because that's the way that we're going to get billions of people on the blockchain. That's our goal. We want to get billions of people on the blockchain, and the way to do that is by doing things that capture fandom, ways to express your fandom. So now, with NBA Top Shots, you can actually own and be a piece of games and your favorite players. Even if you can't necessarily afford to go to an arena and catch every game, you can display your fandom in that way. And so I think NFTs are really a gateway to some of these really great use cases as well.
Agreed. First house was sold via NFT in Florida for $650,000. It's happening, guys. I think that's a great segue too, Ridhima, which I'd love for you to go deeper onto is what is it that makes blockchain or what does it make that NFT project successful? Obviously there's the utility element, there's the artwork, there's all these different components to it, but in your eyes and with what you've seen at Dapper, what makes these projects so successful?
Yeah, I think it's really making sure that you're appealing to your fans and that you understand and that you're building community. Community is such a big part of what we do. Our Discord is incredibly active. We constantly are engaging with our community to understand the types of changes we should make and challenges we should create for our users. So I'd say first and foremost, it's understanding your audience. Also, not being focused necessarily on the financial, portion of NFTs I think is really important, or blockchain. So trying to just make money quickly I don't think is the right long-term approach. You have to think about what kind of utility, to your point earlier, you're adding for your fans and the types of experiences you're allowing them to have because of this.
Yeah. I think that's such an important point, and one that we may want to talk a bit more about too, is that I think there is a belief that if I buy this NFT in a month's time or in a year's time, I'm going to be rich like everyone that bought Bored Apes at the beginning of 2021. Yeah. And I think the reality is, if that's what you're getting into it for, you may be a little bit disappointed in the result. And can we, maybe before we move down, maybe talk about why it is so important to not invest in things to get rich quick, because there is no true get rich quick scheme. But what are the things that really should be guiding those decisions?
Yeah, so I think earlier I was talking about it a little bit more from a brand's perspective, or those that are creating the NFTs. From a consumer's perspective, I think it's really important to figure out things that you're passionate about, because now there's new ways of engaging with them. So DAOs, decentralized autonomous organizations, are a great way of doing that. There are DAOs that are set up to eventually buy an NBA team, or just centered around things that you're really passionate about. I happen to own, well, obviously a number of NBA Top Shots, but recently a Clone X that I feel represents me, and hopefully I can bring into the metaverse one day. But it's kind of like aspirational. Like, my Clone X is someone that I want to be. She has aviators and a sword, and it's like someone that I'd aspire to be. And so I think finding things that you're personally excited about, as well as communities that you want to be a part of, is kind of the right approach.
Yeah. I don't agree with everything that this person says, but Logan Paul did say it best. He said, what is the guiding factor that makes him choose NFTs is, does he like the art? And truly, if you like what you are buying, just like you would like the clothing that you are wearing, I think you are heading down the right direction, because ultimately you're going to be the one that is keeping that thing, and if you don't love it, shouldn't buy it. Terrence?
Yeah, and I think as you guys said, like, community and creating value and having the fans to engage with you directly. I think that's like one of the most successful like indicators of a very successful projects. But I also think that, like, as a collector myself and collecting various NFTs, like, I just love being part of that community. And, instead of me trying to like sell it and get money really quickly and get rich, but it's more about being able to participate, like being able to join in their community discussions and, Twitter spaces and clubhouses where I can actually speak out if I really wanted to, and they would listen to me if I really wanted to. And I think just having that kind of like accessibility to the creators, it provides a lot of value for holding these NFTs. And, like, I don't think I want to sell any of mine because I feel so attached to it.
Truly. And what's been interesting too, because I've been in the Discord channels and I've really engaged, is the camaraderie. One could assume that because this is fairly anonymous and because this is happening, online, that folks can get very negative, and I'm not going to say that it's all roses all the time, and there are certainly characters in those spaces that go into those negative areas, but the camaraderie within these communities has been so fascinating to see, where everyone wants to see each other succeed and contribute to that success, and I think that's definitely, what both you guys have said, and would love to hear, Rikin, your point of view.
That reminds me of the Discord beeps that haunt me at night, because a lot of times I would leave that thing on and just hear that deep, deep, like, and just being part of Discord, which is a whole other kind of game to itself. I think it comes down to kind of three things. One is make it easy. So we kind of looked at Curio from a platform perspective of providing a custodial wallet. So all you needed was an email address to launch. You can buy with a credit card. You didn't need to know anything about crypto, and certainly if you did have a MetaMask wallet, you could certainly connect it. I think the other big thing was the projects have to have that emotional resonance.
Yeah.
So making it relevant is kind of what I think about in terms of if you're a creator and you want to really get it out there. I think largely what we're seeing right now in the NFT space is a culture play. And culture is one of those things of like, how do you bottle it, and how do you actually create magic and get those connections, especially in digital where it's unique in the sense that you can't touch it or feel it or be around it, but you do feel that connection. And when I watch those NBA Top Shot clips, like, I was like, man, that is incredible, you know. And it's like now it has a value to it. And so then I think the final piece is really make it evolve. So like in terms of a roadmap, if you're a project, where you are now and where you're going to go. I think Bored Apes was interesting because it was a unique point of time. I think in March, April of last year, it was the perfect kind of swirl of hullabaloo around, you know, entertainment brands entering, as well as kind of this notion. PFP wasn't even a really thing. I think that notion of identity and that culture play was something that Bored Ape really captured well. And then they made it evolve, right? Then they built out a whole ecosystem where, oh wow, now you have the ability to go out and you know, there's a comic, there's a TV series, and there's a game. There's Jenkins the Valet, which is like, I'm taking my Bored Ape and I'm actually creating new IP.
He's got a
out of
Netflix
it.
series, I believe.
Yeah, he's got a Netflix series. You know, Guy Osiris signed them, right?
Yep.
And so, you know, you have this ability to actually maneuver through waters that were typically gatewayed by big, large media entertainment companies, and now it's this whole kind of evolution or revolution almost of these independent new original IP, really manufacturing that culture and creating whether you're a degen or you're mainstream, you know, you still have that connection to Bored Ape, and it's magic. You know?
I mean, we talk about it a lot at Complex. I mean, we see a lot of similarities in the sneaker culture and hip hop culture that has kind of defined what Complex is about. And I think you see a lot of those similarities in the NFT space where it's driven by hype and scarcity, but the undercurrent of community that's really holding everything down and the cultural relevance is, I think, what makes it so exciting that, you know, yes, Bored Ape was great and it took control, you know, took advantage of a great opportunity, but, you know, it was driven by the community that was really behind it.
Yeah, but Invisible Secrets launched, you know, just 2 days ago, and they went up and then they bottomed out, right?
Right.
And so like there's tons of these projects that are going right now, and I think everyone talks about utility. It's one of these words like, you know, like now it's kind of like overplayed, but back in like June of last year, it was like, oh, what is the utility was really relevant.
Totally.
And I think that as we connect both physical and digital, there's huge opportunities there.
Agreed. I think you segued into my next topic, which I'll start with you, is you know, how do you finally decide to purchase an NFT? You know, you talk about the program, you know, the project you just talked about, which is this, you know, kind of spikes and then bottoms out. How do you avoid those? How do you decide to purchase?
It's tricky. You get burned and you have winners, you know, like the only way, the single most thing that I would advise anyone that wants to get in the NFT space is just participate. And you'll start noticing what you actually like are geared towards, what gravitates you or what you gravitate towards. And then you'll also see you'll start seeing a lot of trends and like who's behind projects and like what's, NFT Twitter is a whole other space to itself.
Totally.
And I think that there's a lot of, speaking of, there's a lot of entertainment brands that aren't doing it well. You know, and I think a lot about that because we're playing in that sector, and they're always asking, you know, what should we do?
Right.
And it changes. You know, it's a moving target.
Yeah. It feels like the early days of social media marketing, where every brand wants to come in and program to Facebook and to Twitter and Instagram and do 24/7, 365 days of content. And then you realize the commitment that you're really signing yourself up for. And I think a lot of those brands are kind of seeing this new technology, want to jump in, but I think they're also needing to be, you know, they're needing to go to those consultants and say, you know, this is how you should engage or this is how you potentially shouldn't.
Yeah.
Terrence, how about you? How do you go about deciding to finally buy an NFT, or what would you recommend to the audience here?
I think the best advice that I got was basically do your own research. I know like it's really easy to like find like content everywhere that talks about certain projects, but you really have to kind of like, you know, check them out and read about them, like see the founders' histories and stuff to really understand like this is a legitimate project with a legitimate like cause. But yeah, I mean, as long as you like what you get, is also part of the important factors of choosing what you like. Is if you love the art, then you should totally get that. I have some NFTs that I really love the art that I would just love to print and hang on my room. Maybe in the future, like in the metaverse or somewhere, like I can just hang it on my wall. But yeah, just make sure you do your own research.
Yeah. And Ridhima, aside from aviator glasses, what is it that drives you to purchase an NFT?
Yeah, I mean, I think about games I've gone to where I had a great experience, or players that I want to bet on because I believe that they're going to be amazing, and I think it's a great way to kind of bet on whether it's athletes or artists. Just finding people that you want to follow and that you want to be part of their journey is probably the most exciting thing for me. And then just seeing what you like, going on, whether it's on any of our products or on OpenSea or Foundation, which has really, really high quality art as well. I'd just go on and find some folks that you want to follow.
Yeah. I'd also say too, like, dig into the things that you're super passionate about. Like, I think that I know how to play golf, so there's a bunch of golf NFTs out there, and I've invested in those because I want to be a part of that community. And they could send you to an event at Waste Management or Riviera, which just happened. So also diving into things that you are super passionate about, that, basketball are great ways of definitely researching and identifying the right projects. And then I think last in this section, Ridhima, how do you recommend people get involved in the blockchain? I think obviously, MetaMask wallet. What is your, do you have a Coinbase account? Are you on FTX? Like, there's so many different elements to kind of finally get involved. But for the audience here that may not own an NFT currently, like, what is the Cliff Notes version of how to set yourself up for this space?
Yeah, so I think it starts, the great thing about this space is that it's so nascent, it's changing all the time, and there's so much information really available online, and Twitter, NFT Twitter or blockchain Twitter is a real thing. So I'd recommend finding a few folks that are in the industry on Twitter and just kind of tracking what they're doing and following what they have to say. A lot of folks now have Substack, so I would recommend checking out Substack too. And then I think identifying DAOs that you want to be a part of. I really think that DAOs are a great way to get started, in addition to, of course, making a purchase. But it's going to touch every industry, so you can't go wrong.
Yeah, I mean, I guess like the best advice is just give it a shot and see how you feel about it. And, sometimes like you could feel like burned out and you might like not get the results that you might want. But I think ultimately like just, trying to do something and failing at it and trying again, and ultimately like you'll get it. And that's how I feel with NFTs, because there's just so much trials that we had to go through. And, I think, Brett, you mentioned that you were like previously like had a lot of issues with NFTs. Me as well. Yeah, but ultimately like it's a very like welcoming space. Yeah. And if you guys are really interested to purchase one, like I highly recommend it.
Yeah, I would kind of echo that. Participate. Yeah. It's the only way you're going to really kind of understand kind of what the what's meaningful to you. And I think that's the other thing is it's what's meaningful for someone might not be the other thing for another person.
Right.
And the platforms that most most NFT projects use are obviously Twitter, Discord, Mirror is another great, Substack. It's still very, to be honest, it's still very kind of inside baseball a little bit in terms of, you do have to have a base level of understanding of technology and understand kind of wallets. I predict that when you get like a physical wallet, when you're like 7 or 8, you're going to get a digital wallet, and you're not too different than, like, as that next kind of generation gets a digital wallet, it's not going to be such a cryptic concept. Yeah. And so, if you're new to the space, there's tons of tutorials at this point, you know. And you mentioned golf. Like, I have a friend that just didn't know anything about NFTs, but he was like Links DAO, and I was like, great project. They're going to go out and buy a golf course. They raised $20 million around there to go out and buy it, and super interesting. From just it's building off of your passion that you enjoy in the physical world, and taking it digital, and then meeting other folks that kind of share in that passion. Yeah. And so the NFT is really just this conduit. It's the gateway to kind of like play in it. Really, it's your ticket.
It's your invitation.
Yeah.
Exactly. I'd say too, don't click on any links.
Oh, yeah.
No moderator is going to message you first.
There's a lot of shadiness.
There's a lot of rules of engagement on Discord, that I definitely encourage everyone to look into, but definitely don't click any links and definitely don't accept any direct messages from anyone. Turn those things off. I think we're going to keep going, and I know that this is, the big piece of this is entertainment, and I think we've got some great folks up here that can speak to that. But can we unpack the technology, Rikin, and kind of talk about what that means for the entertainment industry? I mean, there's so much IP out there. There's so much content. There's so much, communities based around this content. Can you unpack that a bit and kind of what are the opportunity areas for the entertainment industry?
Yeah, I mean, I wish I had all the answers, but I truly don't. The one thing that I will say is that there's two forces that are really happening. One is the notion of direct one-to-one connections between artist and fan, and not having to go through a platform. It's interesting because last week we signed Universal Music Group, and that's a behemoth of the world's largest record label.
Totally.
And we've been talking along with a lot of each of the labels individually and artists and then management companies as a result of that. And we talked with one artist, H, who is this British hip hop rapper. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh, super interesting. It's like, how do you communicate with fans right now? He's like, yeah, I use TikTok and Instagram. He's like, I also use Discord. I'm like, you use Discord? Like, yeah, he's a 22-year-old guy. And Discord is one of these places where, like, it's traditionally for gaming, right?
Totally.
And he was able to kind of use that as a fan club. And the NFTs that we're thinking about releasing are kind of going to play into that kind of ecosystem. Mm-hmm. And so I think the big thing is that that one-to-one connection offers access and access to them, right? Which in a new and distinct way. The other kind of force that's happening is this notion of redefining ownership and what that means from the creator economy. So that notion of putting something out in the world and then collecting fees in perpetuity is a totally foreign concept. To ask any artist, that doesn't break until after they die, and then all of a sudden all their stuff is valuable. Right. And you have these estates that they never saw a penny of. Or, I've collected everything from rocks to baseball cards to spoons to watches now. And one of the big things is who makes money on the secondary? It's never the primary person of the asset. Totally. It's always the secondary. It's the card shop, or it's the eBays of the world. Yeah. And so that's going to change when you have digital assets and when you're on chain.
Yeah, I definitely think about that a lot when it comes to especially NFL space, where you see so many issues as players retire. Oh yeah. The CTE and just their bodies are completely deteriorating. And when you go to sell that signed football, or you go to sign that sell that signed baseball card, that athlete's seeing nothing, and the leagues are not really stepping up and supporting the players after they retire. But if all those autographs, or collectibles are living on the blockchain, they have the ability to continue to make passive income.
You're gonna pass them to your kids,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I think I know we're almost at time, so I think we're going to keep scrolling down, but. I think I want to also talk about defining what it means, defining what success looks like for brands. There's so many brands out there that have already dipped their toes in. Budweiser, one of them, that has kind of gotten involved. What does this technology mean for brands, and how can they get ready for it?
Yeah, so I think for brands, what's really cool is that you got a little bit more transparency into your fan base and into the people that are part of what you could almost call like a membership club. And so I'd be really thoughtful around, as I mentioned earlier, really staying true to that fan base and making sure that you're aligned with the things that'll be most exciting to them. So I actually think, Chipotle did a pretty cool campaign it was a burrito campaign around the holidays. Barbie and Balmain just did a drop with us on Flow. And I think that those types of things where there's an audience who has this excitement about, certain verticals, like making sure that you're staying true to that when you're creating NFTs. And as I mentioned earlier too, not just focusing on the primary sale, but when you think about it, how are your users going to make the most on your platform? So we really like on the secondary market for the users to be getting the value versus the company or the minter or the brand even. Right. And so being thoughtful around making sure you have a long-term vision, I think, is really important.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I agree with everything that Ridhima said. And I think for brands, like when they first start out with their NFT concept and everything, really have to think about like their audience and being able to understand that audience. Like, are they trying to acquire new like type of users? Like, I think a lot of the times like NFTs themselves, they tend to have a lot of like speculation involved, and I think brands like really have to focus on like targeting the right audience that don't just want to flip this for money. Like they should kind of focus on the audience that are really excited about their brands.
Yeah, for me, it's two things come to mind. One is this notion of storytelling. Brands connect to consumers through storytelling, and how do you tell stories in unique in different ways in the digital space? Mm-hmm. That's through NFTs.
Yeah.
Fundamentally, and we might not be there yet, but that one-to-one connection also has that ability to use it as a new marketing channel.
Yep.
And so when we approach studios or television producers or even talent for that matter, we think about it from that perspective of how do you tell your story and how do you communicate and nurture that new channel.
Yeah.
Because it's a new form of engagement, and so the rules are shifting in that world.
Yeah.
Or in this world rather. And so it's a big kind of white space.
Yeah.
The second thing I think is so what? If you're going to release an NFT, so what?
Yeah.
Like, what does that mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's funny is that one of the funniest stories I had when we launched and then just this massive wave of NFTs kind of came on. I had the drummer of Guns N' Roses call me, and it was in that period there was these memes of like NFT that shit, and like the drummer of Guns N' Roses called me and was like, "Hey, I just got a parking ticket. I want to create an NFT out of it." I was like, "Why?" He's like, "I just want to pay off the parking ticket." I'm like, "Dude, you have royalties to do that."
Yeah.
It's like you don't need an NFT for that. So I always kind of like push back on brands and proceed with caution and say like, why does this make sense for you?
Right.
So what that you're doing it? What are you thinking about now? And what do you think about the future? How does this fit into your ecosystem in terms of all the other stuff that you're doing? And does it make sense? And if it doesn't, then like make it be more deliberate about kind of what you're doing with it.
Right. I think the mistake brands could make is that they think getting to mint is the end goal. And I think getting to mint is only the beginning. Once it's out there, that's when the real work starts. At least the founders that I've spoken to on the projects that I've invested in, it's like the work starts once the mint happens. And I think one of the things I wanted to bring back to that you brought up about Discord, especially with relation to brands and some of the brands in the space that I operate in, it's rewarding real fandom. When you think about the sneaker space, one of the big issues is bots. Every sneaker that drops on the sneakers app, every sneaker that drops on anybody's portal, instantly everything sells out. But imagine a world where your engagement on Discord, because it is gamified, you are therefore being rewarded for how much you are engaging with this brand, which I think creates completely new avenues for them to react and relate to their customer, and eliminates that that huge negative piece, which is you're giving product to a few computers basically. And I know we're at time, and I know we want to do some Q&As, so we're going to end with some future predictions. Rikin, why don't you start us off? What does the future of NFTs look like, and what do you feel is the next industry that it's going to adopt the technology?
That's a good question. I think the future of NFTs is we're not going to use NFTs anymore. So just like I predicted in the beginning, where it's just part of a tokenized world that we live in. So that person just tokenized their house. I think what's interesting is kind of these other use cases of, I believe it was Fiat that just announced that they were tokenizing one of their cars, and they were releasing an NFT to look at the carbon emissions. And so you could actually have kind of the carbon emissions kind of share on a dashboard and I'm still trying to understand a little bit of the NFT part of that, to be honest. But we're just going to see more. I think any kind of consumer brand. Again, it's Web3, so it's the next technology. They're going to try to figure out kind of how that fits into their business model.
Right.
I think the lowest hanging like fruit for the NFTs, in my opinion, are like ticketing and event spaces. Because right now, as we're getting back into in-person events, tickets are going to be sold on like Ticketmaster and places like that, where it's really hard to resell. But with NFTs, you're able to resell like relatively easily, and creators and the event hosts can capture the true market value of their tickets rather than giving up a lot of that revenue to scalpers.
Yeah, I think that beyond, so the metaverse, I know a lot of people throw this word around, but I'm very bullish on it. I think that in the future, you're going to be able to bring your NFTs into different metaverses. You're going to carry them with you wherever you go. Another component that I think is going to be part of the future, that I hope is going to be part of the future, that we're certainly working towards is for this technology to be more sustainable. So we recently had Deloitte Canada did a study on us to really understand the impact that we're having, and we're continually trying to improve sort of our impact on the world. And I think, I guess third, I would say that it's going to continue to be a really big part of community. So now, whether you're part of a community that's attending an event or you're part of a community of something that you're passionate about otherwise, you're going to have an ability to show that, and that's going to be a path for it.
Awesome. Okay. Do we have time for questions? No, we have no time for questions. No questions.
Couple questions.
No questions. Jay says no questions.
Find us afterwards.
Yeah, find us afterwards. We're happy to answer any questions. I mean, these are the experts. I'll make some stuff up.
This is not financial advice.
Yeah, not financial advice.